This is me, and this is my screen time report from 2 weeks ago. Yikes. I mean, I'm literally almost embarrassed to show this, it sucks. I was a shell of a man, racked by dopamine addiction, unable to go 5 minutes without watching something stimulating. But here's my screen time now, down about 90%. Now I can actually read books, have face-to-face conversations, or be bored, all without turning into a mid-pandemic iPad baby. If you feel like your phone has absolutely hijacked your time and attention, you're not alone, which is why in this video I'm breaking down exactly how I cut my screen time in half, not by force, but by design. We'll look at where most people's phone habits fall apart, as well as some overlooked changes that help me build a phone that actually serves me rather than the other way around. Because the longer your phone runs the show, the less time and energy that you have to actually be a human being. And that's pretty important. So let's dive in. All right, before we actually get into the setup itself, we have to do something much more foundational to resetting our relationship with our phone. And here's the thing, it could be the difference between you having a productive day or doom scrolling until your thumbs fall off. But to understand why this setting works so well, think of it like this. You rarely ever choose to open your phone. Every ding, every buzz, every little pill that fills your lock screen. What used to be an act of free will is now a FOMO-inducing obligation, engineered by the penny-pinching lizards of Silicon Valley. But what if you could flip that on its head? Spoiler alert, you absolutely can. And it's got very little to do with fancy widgets or crazy home screen setups, although those do help a lot, and we'll get to those in just a little bit. Step one is to run a notification audit. So that just means going into your settings, going into your notifications, and turning off any notifications that you truly do not need. You don't need to know about Postmates doing flash sales. You don't need to know about IKEA having a sale on armoires. Again, start thinking of that stuff as clutter and not efficiency. Okay, that was easy. Step one is to just audit your notifications. Step two is to change how you view your notifications. And I'm not talking about viewing your notifications upside down or from a distance. I'm talking about using stack. Instead of just letting all of your notifications that do make it through pile up like a wall of distraction, you are now tidying them away in a little tiny stack at the bottom of your screen. And I know what you're thinking. That doesn't sound like the most efficient way to use your phone. Hiding your notifications, wouldn't you want to see them as they come in? Of course you would, but you also want to develop a level of discipline that you didn't have before. You see, when I was building this minimalist phone setup, I started thinking about not only how you can be more efficient with your phone and how you can make it less distracting, but really how you can have your phone sort of train you without you even realizing it. So by changing your default view of notifications from list to either stack or count, you're adding one stop of friction that allows your brain to have a little bit more self-awareness when it comes to opening your phone and just looking at the notifications that are coming in. It sounds small, but it's super effective. Your attention is one of the most valuable things, if not the most valuable thing that you own. So you shouldn't give it away so willy-nilly. According to science and just my own intuition and how great it is to say that kind of thing for the script, your lock screen is the first moment your brain interacts with your phone, which means it's the first moment that you either make a choice or get pulled back into a bad habit. And most of the time, it's the second one. Be honest, is the second one. Your lock screen is really a gateway to more distraction if you don't set it up right. So here's what I did. Up here at the top, I've got some of my most used widgets. These are things like Todoist, which is my to-do list app of choice. It's got Arc Browser, which is my web browser of choice, and it's got Perplexity, which is when I just need answers quickly because I have zero patience because I was raised by the internet. Oh no, my brain's broken. I've got the weather here for quick access, and I've also got the calendar app up here that I can open at any time. Better yet, when I want to brainstorm or flesh out an idea super quickly, I've got the Chat GPT widget down here. And then like most people, I've got the camera button in the standard location. The whole reason for setting up my lock screen like this is pretty simple, and it's basically just to reduce the amount of time that I would normally take to open my phone and find the app that I need. From capturing a task to browsing the internet to just getting answers really quickly, everything is here, a simple tap away, and we'll talk about the philosophy behind that a little bit later in this video. Basically, instead of opening my phone and hoping that I don't lose my focus, I've set up my lock screen so that I literally don't have to think about that. But on the times that I do need to open my phone, my home screen is set up to be even more boring, if you can believe it. The average person in 2025 taps, swipes, or clicks on their phone 2,600 times per day. And the harsh truth is, your home screen is probably adding to that number without you even noticing. Most people make their home screen layouts to put their most used or most addictive apps front and center. You didn't plan to get distracted, but your home screen layout sure did. Instead of relying on a standard iOS 18 layout on my home screen, I just got rid of it all entirely and replaced it with a dumb phone launcher. These have been super popular in the productivity, self-development niche of YouTube, but it works. And then instead of swiping this way to get to the rest of my apps, which is where they all are, my other most important apps are just on the widget screen. Things like weather, to-do list, calendar, and my Oura Ring, which is simply the most functional appearance of apps ever. Something else I was noticing about the dumb phone launcher is that, you're so used to looking for the app icon, but sometimes I find myself staring at my phone because I'm looking for Spotify, but I don't see the Spotify app. And it's just another one of those points of friction that allows myself to have a little bit more self-awareness in what it is that I'm doing and a lot more purpose when I'm actually touching my phone. The best part is I didn't have to delete Instagram or completely block YouTube. All I did was keep them in my app library, but I hid them with Face ID, which means that they're down here in this hidden folder. It's that little point of friction that makes all the difference. Now, when I'm unlocking and using my phone, I'm doing it all by my own choice. And I'm not submitting to the lizards in Silicon Valley. And I'm just being a person. I'm just being more conscious. And it feels great. It's awesome. All right, now that you've seen how I've rebuilt my phone, there's really only one question that remains. Why would you want to do this in the first place? I mean, it's not like you have to. And of course you don't have to. You really don't have to do anything in this life besides pay taxes and die. That's it. I mean, if you boil it down, that's really it. You don't need the iron discipline of 1,000 tigers just to check the weather or to write a note. Because yeah, this setup looks minimal, and it's actually doing something a lot more important than just looking clean. You see, the biggest problem with smartphones, aside from the obvious that they're harvesting you for your humanity, is that they make the important stuff, which is the stuff that you actually need to do, just as easy to ignore as everything else. You have to dodge a dozen notifications just to get to your Notes app. That's why I started thinking about how my phone should work a little bit more critically, and I came up with something called the light touch philosophy. The idea of the light touch philosophy is simple. Your phone should make it easier to go from thought to action, not harder. It should support your mind, not split it in 10 different directions. So I built my entire setup around 3 core actions. The first core action is knowledge, meaning searching for information and getting the answers right when I need it. The second core action is ideas, capturing thoughts before they disappear into the abyss forever. And the third core action is tasks, remembering what actually needs to get done and prioritizing the things that actually move the needle and move forward the most important projects in my life. If a feature doesn't make one of those 3 things easier, it doesn't get a spot on my phone. And if an app tries to hijack that process, I slow it down with just enough friction to stay intentional and, more importantly, stay focused. I think the coolest part for me of setting up this phone setup is really sitting with that concept of friction without restriction. If you have too much friction between the things you want to do or the things you want to use your phone for, it's obviously not efficient and way less fun to use. But if you have just the right amount of friction, then you get yourself into a place where you begin to sort of train your brain to just be a whole lot more conscious with everything that you're doing, specifically with this device. I'm super aware that I'm holding a $1,000 phone. Every time I go to open, for example, a social media app that's hidden by Face ID, I have to think about it. And I have to make sure that my face is in the right spot, and I have to make sure I know where the apps are in the first place. And even when I'm in the app after that, I don't want to be there for much longer than I have to be. So it goes to show that friction, when placed correctly, can actually work in your favor in a big way, especially when it comes to getting more things done and ultimately living a more productive and happy life. I didn't cut my screen time in half by using default setups. I cut it by designing the entire experience. Turns out it wasn't about deleting everything. It was just about designing your phone to be used with a lighter touch and adding just enough friction to remind yourself what you're doing at all times. But if you're tired of using electronic tools to be more productive and feel as though you're an old soul born in the wrong century, I actually have a video going over all of my favorite analog tools that I use on a daily basis to be more productive and ultimately happier. So if you're interested in that, it's right here. Okay, that's all I've got for you. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this helped, and remember, keep scrolling mindfully.